No, without a doubt. I mean, it's in one sense, a very typical Texas defense. I mean, they're big, strong, athletic, can run. And I would say in another sense, they're probably not as deep as they have been over past years, but it is by far the best defense we've faced this year. I think statistically one of the best in the country right now, in the top quarter anyway.
How do you approach that? Is that a fun challenge or a nightmare week for you personally?
Oh, I don't think, I mean, I would like to think there's not a whole lot of nightmare weeks, in front of me. I wouldn't say that it's a fun challenge necessarily. I just think it's a challenge. And I mean, that's why we're in this. We don't do this to sit back and, just see what can happen against anybody. And so I think our players are excited about it. A lot of the team from the state, and I think they'll look forward to going out and, seeing what they can do and compete against them.
Both last weekend, kind of preparing for this week, there's been so much talk about physicality and obviously against a team like Texas, the defense has to bring that. But does the offense think that way too? I mean, do you think in terms of physical, just mashing them and trying to slugfest like Coach?
I really hope they do.
Yeah.
I mean, that is certainly the way I think, and I think that, do I feel like week in, week out we're going to line up and just smash mouth football and 3 yards in a cloud of dust? That's probably not who we are. At the same time, it's a violent game. I mean, witnessed by their quarterback retiring at 20 years old or however old he is, and it's a violent game, and you have to play it that way. Regardless of the style of offense or the type of person you are, the game has to be played that way.
Hey John, you guys got Montel some confidence last week. What's the next step you'd like to see from him coming up this week?
Just keep progressing. I think that the defense we played last week allowed for some things to happen. I think we'll see a very different defense this week, not just by personnel but by scheme. And so, just keep taking the things that are there and keep trusting himself to do what he's coached to do, and just keep getting better.
Tough spot for your offensive line when a couple guys go out with illness. It's especially late in the week like that. I feel like those guys, Larry and Brian, were decent in there, or pretty good, or how do you assess what they did and how they'll be ready if they need to go this week?
With a very short time to prepare and to really truly get ready, obviously the win speaks volumes, and so I thought that it took some time. I mean, I don't think that it was comfortable at the beginning of the game, and I think that and even for me, I don't know that I was comfortable with them in there at the beginning of the game as much as I should have been, to be honest with you. But as it progressed, I think they did a good enough job, and hopefully they'll continue down that path and keep improving. Getting that first start under your belt's a huge deal. So now you understand that it is faster on Saturday, but mentally and it slows down for you because it's a cleaner picture than it is during the week.
Physically, Larry's a guy that people would look at and say, almost any team would say, I'll take him. I mean, you just talked about the light and kind of that first start being huge. Even bigger for a guy like that who has that kind of prototypical size and now can maybe piece those two things together and really start to make some progress.
Honestly, it probably was bigger for Brian than for Larry. I mean, Larry had played as a true freshman at New Mexico, and so I think that probably bigger for Brian, but I do believe that we're hoping that Larry progresses into his body and keeps working to stay in shape.
Clint, how do you assess your D overall through the non-con?
This past week was probably the most encouraging. It was the first time we went out there and played with some really sincere energy and enthusiasm. The kids were excited. We were able to fit our run gaps, holding them to 2.9, per attempt on that, and then we didn't give up any real easy throws. Every ball that was caught was a contested throw and a challenge throw. So, it got to the point when you're playing that way, a lot of those things that showed up in the first two games in terms of giving up big plays were starting to get corrected, and so, we got to keep working, but I feel like the kids are doing a nice job of working and coming together and starting to learn to play within the system and understand their assignments and responsibilities and execute, within the system and work together and have some fun with it.
You've got a bunch of guys on your team that have hung in there with Texas the past 2 years, and they know that, obviously. Now it's a different team. Is that a concern that maybe some of that, experience and positive stuff that's happened in the past they can't necessarily draw on as much because of new team, new coach down there?
I'd like to think with the guys on our team that they understand that it's for most part, there's 11 of you on the field, but we give each one of them one individual job, and we feel like each one of them is able to execute that job, or we wouldn't give it to them. And so it's our 11, little personal battles out there, and I feel like our guys have the confidence that they can line up and get their job done every single snap. And as long as we keep that mentality and guys understand that it really doesn't matter, who you play against. It's about getting your job done, and that's where, we just need to focus and play it, one snap at a time and trust our buddy to do the same thing.
John, Nick Harwell's used to getting the ball a lot more. Have you had do any maintenance with him in terms of keeping his enthusiasm up, or is he naturally?
No, I mean, Nick is obviously a captain and elected by his teammates for a reason, because he has a great attitude and he's a great leader. And so, I would like to get Nick the ball a little bit more too. And so that's always on our agenda, obviously. But I wouldn't say there's been any kind of maintenance to keep Nick happy or anything like that. I think he's done a great job of maintaining his leadership role.
John, the first play of the game the other night, your receivers did a really good job of keeping their blocks. Have you been happy with that overall? Is that one of their strengths?
Yeah, I think we've done a decent job blocking on the perimeter. I think across the board, you refer to the first play. I think it not only did the receivers, but they were just like Coach Bowen, like Clint just said. I mean, there were 11 guys on the field that did their job on that play, and it worked out very well. And so, but I do. I think the receivers have done a very good job blocking downfield. We probably need to be a little bit more consistent in that. I think there's some times where you'd like to see some of those quick screens gain a few more yards and be a little bit more dynamic. But, we're a work in progress. We'll keep getting better.
Clint, about those two Texas games the last 2 years, I mean, the one here you had them on the ropes to the final seconds, and then last year still right there in the third quarter. Is there something you can pinpoint that has been the difference? I mean, obviously they're Texas and they got 5-star guys coming out of every corner of their locker room and all that, but has there been something that's just the difference between you guys being able to get over the hump versus them being able to pull it out?
For lack of a better answer, it kind of comes down to like last game. The game's close, and we kind of talk about a lot of times the fight really starts in the fourth quarter, and at some point in time in the fourth quarter, guys have to step up and find a way to make a play to finish a game off. This past week, on offense and defense, we were able to make plays in the fourth quarter and do that, and hopefully that's a step in the right direction where our kids have now had some success of finishing a game and finishing a fourth quarter that we, hadn't in the past. So now when we get in that situation again, instead of, sitting and waiting for something to happen, I hope guys understand that's when you have to make it happen.
Clint, on the defensive line, with Tadarian playing well, it's another big body up there. How nice is that when you play these Central Michigans and Texas who like to run?
It does good. It gives us some flexibility in our personnel of who we can put in the game. And you're right. You look at the Texas O-line. They're some big guys, and so for us to be able to match those type of people, getting Keon and Tadarian out there at the same time, along with Bolton and Simke, and moving Goodman around a little bit, it allows us to at least give guys physical matches and to where they're not giving up. To some of these guys, Ben Goodman can be giving up 60 pounds, where Tadarian's not giving up any. So those are just matchups that as long as Tadarian and Keon keep playing well, it really does benefit us.
With Montel, with some of the options and the read options that maybe hasn't gone as well as you might have hoped, is he still kind of learning on the fly with that too, that part of the game and the running part of his job, I guess?
Yeah, I hope he's not learning on the fly. I mean, I think we're coaching him and teaching him to do that, and we have to get a lot better. We've had some opportunities, not just in the past game, but really in the past two games. I thought he ran it well in the first game, and we had some relationship problems, in the past game with quarterback and running back in the pitch phase, and but I think that's something that we definitely will continue to work at and get better at.
Going into games, John, you have an idea when you're going to bring Cummings into games, before the game starts, or is that a feel situation and just kind of assessing what's happening out there, or do you not want to answer that?
Yeah, I think, obviously there's always a plan for him. I don't really think I want to share what that is sometimes, but there are times where there's a plan and it's in place and this is what we want to do. And then there's times where it's like, okay, let's give this a shot and see where this is going. And I think we'll continue to look at that week by week and see what the right situation or what the right situation is.
Sure. Are you a believer? I mean, the one time you brought him in on the 3rd and 1 last week, I think you ended up with the missed field goal on that possession. But Coach mentioned, hey, Coach Weiss, he said it's a power run situation. That's why John put him in there. Montel had worked all the way down the field. I mean, are you a believer in the momentum of anything like that, or is there so much focused on, okay, this personnel is what we need in this situation? Forget what Montel's done all the way down the field, rhythm, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think any of those are exact. I mean, I think the reality is that you're always aware of the momentum, and you have to be. I mean, it's part of the reason I like being back down on the field calling the game. It was hard to do that from the press box. You don't feel that necessarily. You just see it. It's kind of septic up there. At the same time, I'm a bigger believer in what was our plan going into the game and following the plan going into the game. And so, there's things and there's reasons for that we won't go into, but I think it's a little bit of both.
Are there any frustrations, or do you feel shortchanged anyway to not being upstairs and having that view?
Oh, certainly. I mean, the view from upstairs, as you guys know, because most of you are up there, and it's like watching video, and you almost like you're playing a video game at times, and I get the last call. Not always, but usually. At the same time, I really do enjoy being down. I think that it's the right place to be, especially coaching the offensive line, having that position and being able to make adjustments with the 5 guys there. We've got guys upstairs with great eyes on the things on the field and giving me the information that I need. So are there frustrations? Sure, there'd be frustrations just like I were when I was upstairs and you wanted to be downstairs. But I don't think that there's anything that any regrets about it at all.
How many voices upstairs have access to your ears, or is it just one?
Enough. Enough.
And what do those voices sound like?
There's enough guys helping us out upstairs.
You ever get Tom?
No, no. I don't hear any of the people that have play calls for me. I can promise you that.
I just scream the number of the guy who's open. I don't realize that the quarterback can't see as well.
All right.
8. That's what he said. 3. Do you feel like 3 weeks in, non-con, everybody always calls this now's when it starts for real. I mean, most coaches like to say that because conference play is so critical. Do you feel like during the non-conference you were able to establish an offensive identity, or is that still a work in progress too?
I think that's something, anybody that has a true identity that this is what we are and we're going to make the pieces fit this identity has been doing it at that particular institution or in that program for a very, very long time. I think that we're still working through that, and I think that the nice part about being a spread offense is the ability to kind of mold things the way you want to have enough and to be able to spread the field where you can put things where you want to. And so I think that will be going on all year long.
Same question, Clint. I mean, you knew what you had. A lot of these guys have played a ton of snaps on defense. Do you feel like your identity is pretty locked in defensively?
I do. I believe it's getting there. There were some frustrations in the first 2 games that I think every player on our defense and coaches felt the same. You watched them on tape, you recognize that we were really close to making those plays, but there were little small discipline things, fundamental things that were keeping us from really putting it all together. But I think as a group we felt as though we knew we could fix the problems and correct them and go. And this last game we were able to put that together. We weren't great the whole game, but at the same time you didn't see those same type of major obvious something went wrong plays that we had given up. And so now I believe our kids have settled down into their roles and they're part of things. Played physical, played hard, played with enthusiasm, did all those things that we like to be our trademark. And from here, we just need to keep building on that and continue to, let those guys just keep working together and get stronger and stronger.
Matt, let me follow up on that first, because I do think, agreeing with Clint too, I think our players on offense know what we're going to do. Sure. And they have a good and have a confidence in certain things that we're doing, and they know what to expect, regardless of what the play call is. They know what's expected and how the game should be played in an overall sense, not just in a play-by-play sense. So I think there is the development of an identity, but I think it's more of a philosophical identity. This is what we're doing. This is the way we're going to do it. So.
When the local boy threw the pass on that play, was that your idea, or did he suggest it, or beg for it, or?
Joe can beg all he would like to, and it wouldn't come out that way. Reality was an opportunity, we thought, to get a one-on-one situation, and the right situation, short field, and see what we could get done.
2 more questions.
I just asked Coach this, and I'd be interested to hear both of your thoughts. New coach, new staff, new identity at Texas too. Is it better for you guys to play them early and kind of while they're still transitioning and figuring their own systems out and all that stuff? I mean, do you guys believe that this is the right time to catch a team like that? Regardless if it's Texas, it just happens to be this week. But overall, is that something you like?
I don't know if like or dislike. I was. As coaches, you change jobs, and when you're first year in a program, first year as a staff, first year with those players, there obviously are benefits to being together. You've kind of been through some battles together with things. People know how each other is going to react. So there are always some growing pains with a new staff that are just inherently there. I don't know if it's good or bad, but Coach Strong and Coach Watson and Coach Wickline, all those guys are highly respected men and are very good football coaches. Have done it. He's been going as Coach Watson back when he was at Colorado to Nebraska, the whole deal, and Coach Wickline, Oklahoma State. These guys are really good, and they know what they're doing, and their kids are playing hard, and they got them lined up right and playing sound and doing that. So, but inherently, every time if there's something new, then you got to work through some kinks.
Yeah, I guess I feel the same way as Clint. I mean, you feel good that you're getting them early, that maybe they're not settled into a routine that they're in, that they'll be into later. That being said, maybe it would have been nice to play them for the spring game and be done. I don't know, but ultimately, without any kind of control over those things, I think that you come out and you get prepared, and you worry less about what they're doing and what their mindset is, and more about yours.
Clint, really quickly, Jake loved that play he made. Charlie talked about it. Can you go over what you talked with him about and what you saw in the play that he made, the one where he blitzed and just peeled off on his own?
Yeah, Jake, you just love guys like Jake, first of all. I mean, the guy shows up every day, works his tail off, and is just a great team guy to be around every day. And on the football field, he's a very instinctual kid, and that was kind of an instinctual type play. He was part of the blitz package to go. He's actually our contained blitzer, and the tackle peels off to go block the guy on the setup screen. Jake feels it, peels off, and makes a fantastic play. And that's I don't know if Jake ever gets enough credit for some of the things he does. He shows up every week and does really good things for us, and that was just I was happy to see him put together a string of 3 plays that other people noticed, because he does so many things that we love in our defensive room that maybe other people don't get to see of truly how valuable he is. So for him to finally throw together 3 big plays and get some credit that I believe the kids deserve for a few years.
All right. Thank you.